Do you assume that because you were impacted that way, do you operate under the assumption that other people can be?
No, I think you have to. Everybody is affected and reached by different issues in different ways, and I don't think we should be very sure about anything. You know, I think that's what the best marketers do, is they understand that people, a variety of bells and whistles will get people's attention. And so some people might, you know, respond to a scholarly book. Another person might hear a great oratory, you know. Another person might see a picture. Another person might need to see a whole video or a documentary. Some people might need it fictionalized in, you know, Blood Diamond or something like that. Oh, okay, I get it now. You know, there's like so many different ways to come to an issue. And you know, if you're going to affect domestic, international, whatever it is, I think you got to deploy everything, because you want to grab as many people as possible into the basket of activism, and you need to try all these things. But certainly, a foundational element of building any kind of a social movement are the photographs, no question.
It's interesting that sometimes I know that the work that we've done for organizations, they've said we're not sure how much of a victim we want to see because of the issue that you're talking about.
Yeah. That's there. It's definitely debate all the time. You know, to what extent people want to portray. I mean, because you're certainly going to get a lot of pictures that one can use that are where people are, you know, in a very vulnerable position, with reinforcing what I would put forward as a stereotype of the helpless victim. And if you just use that without a hell of a lot of explanation, which maybe people won't read, it's possible that you're going to reinforce that and continue to maintain the myth that it's for us to help them. You know, otherwise they are going to die.
Right.
And it's like Save Darfur. What a bad, I mean, as important as the Darfur movement has been, that terminology, it's too late. It's like naming your team the Washington Redskins. I mean, it's going to take years to change that damn name. They will change it. But, you know, we're not trying to save Darfur. You know, it should have been, anyway, you see what I mean.
On that, because it's a really good point. I mean, Noelle, you probably work with the Save Darfur Coalition a lot. What do you think about the name? I mean, we'll talk about imagery too, but that this issue of, you know, to what degree do we show victimization and what degree do we show agency?
Well, I think that there's another challenge that is sort of related to that. When you have groups that sort of that are created around one particular issue, what I often see and become frustrated with is organizations often sort of, I think, losing sight of their mission originally. I mean, the name Save Darfur is I think it's somewhat problematic in that it does sort of, or it doesn't take into account Darfuri agency. You know, does Darfur need saving? And I think it's something that we probably don't even think about. You think Save Darfur sounds great. But I think that there are implications, and language is important. The words that we use are important, and they do have an impact on sort of, you know, how we do what we do and how we approach things. So I think it's a good question to raise. But I think, you know, certainly what they are trying to do is positive. We all agree on that.
We've all worked with them, so yeah. I think that's an absolute given.
But I think it is a good question. I think it is a good question. You know, sort of what is the language that we use around these types of things? And it's the same kind of thing. You know, what are sort of the assumptions that underlie certain things? If, you know, the responsibility that we have, those of us that are exposed, that do work on these issues, that do travel. You know, the responsibility that we have to sort of frame the issue in the right way, frame a photograph in the right way, in the sense of providing that context.
Well, Noelle, how do you get your colleagues on the Hill, whose job it is, to focus on? I mean, you're on this committee, and the issues on the committee are the issues that the people here are working on. What are the tools? What are the visual tools that help or don't help? And is it seeing it from Ron's photo when he shows it, when they see it in a magazine, or when he brings it on the Hill, or when John's got it in CBS, you know?
Well, first of all, I mean, I think for Congressman Payne and the work that he does, photography sort of it sort of brings to life, in a way, the work that he does for his constituents, because most of them will never travel to the places that he works on, or the issues that he works on. They'll never get to see for themselves what it is that has spurred him on. And so photography often brings his work to life for his constituents, and I think brings it home to them in a way that they can relate to it. But it also happens the other way. Because you have members of Congress that are not sort of motivated by their own passions and interests. But so you have Congressman Payne, who sort of, has his own motivations, just out of his own passions for the continent, the people of Africa. And then you have other members of Congress who maybe hear from constituents who saw a photograph. And you saw that a lot with Darfur. You see that a lot with Congo. That everyday citizens are reading Time, reading Newsweek, watching 60 Minutes, reading the newspaper, and they're seeing these images, and they're joining organizations, and those organizations are contacting their members of Congress. So in that way also, photography and photojournalism can have an impact on policy.
John, have you felt there was good response to the, where you've gotten these issues into the very mainstream, network television shows? How has that gone in terms of, I know you've worked on, is it CSI or one of those shows taking those in that's motion, but the same thing.
We're trying three different things, I guess. One is doing more, seeing where the dramatic series where you can infiltrate, because some people, as I said, respond if it's some kind of fictionalized thing where it's easier to, like, as part of this plot, that this issue gets introduced. So we worked with the creator of what is it called, Law and Order Special Victims Unit, and to do an episode about child soldiers, and one of the highest ratings they've ever had, and they had literally thousands and thousands of people writing in, how can we help, how can we get involved, la la la. So that's an area that we're looking into doing a lot more of. Then secondly, there's the traditional sort of news programs that do allow for some coverage of this kind of work. So with 60 Minutes, I've done 4 episodes now with them, and it's quite amazing. I mean, like illustratively, Anderson Cooper has probably 600,000-700,000 a night, in terms of his constituency, his viewership, and 60 Minutes is like 16 to 20 million every time it's on, and then there's a viral explosion after that of people watching it online and stuff like that. There's just no parallel to it. So you have a fairly, when there's an issue that has a public policy issue attached to it, you have almost immediate reaction, because many members of Congress watch this show every Sunday after the football games, and their constituents watch it, and they get all riled up, and it's an older demographic, a demographic that weighs in the political system. And then thirdly, we have documentaries, I think that, and again, this is where so much of good still photography comes in handy. So, people have the usual thought, this is my last point, and I think it's relevant to everything, which is the typical network executive, and I have to work with these guys a lot because I'm constantly pushing up against these, what are glass ceilings that can be broken. Typically, they feel there is no market for this stuff. And every time we fight and win, and then you get evidence from Nielsen and others to show that actually people watch these things because people are interested. If you give them something that is actually not some horrible, helpless PSA, public service announcement where, people are just flies and start.
You've already slammed Sally Struthers, so
yeah, I might as well just go all the way. Boom. But if you give them something that's interesting and challenging and actually tells, here's the problem, that these people are, in this war, in this genocide, or in this situation of starvation for these reasons, and this is what could change it, and here's what you can do. Really? Okay, I'll do that. Like you respond to the tsunami or Katrina or whatever, I can respond to Darfur because there's something you're giving me that maybe will help change the situation for people on the ground there.